This is Will.
This is Alex.
Welcome back to another episode of They Mostly Come Out of It. Welcome back, everyone. Oh, man.
You know what time it is?
Yep, we back. Sorry it's on a Tuesday.
So you still got your weekly. So you can't complain too much.
Yep, you can't complain too much. I did still make it work. It was my fault. I'll admit that. I did still make it work, though. So we're here.
You got your weekly content.
As always, we have homework for you all.
Yeah.
We have something we'd like you to do. Pretty easy. Free. You don't have to pay anything. Mm-hmm. Go like, comment, subscribe wherever you find your podcasts. Go to Spotify. We're everywhere. Our RSS feed is everywhere.
And our next episode after this one is a request.
Yes.
You know who you are. So if you got those.
If you got requests, we do them every 5 episodes. Get them in. Message us on Instagram, Facebook. We have a Twitter that no one looks at. We have threads that no one looks at.
Also,
YouTube's probably the best way to get through to us.
Yes. Or Instagram.
Instagram's a good one too. I'm on there quite a bit. So.
We also we are close to finishing 87. So if you have some sort of special movie you really, 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 really want to see in 88, let us know.
Yeah, get them in soon because we can watch them in 88.
Yeah, as long as they fit the criteria.
So yeah, I mean, listen, we're here for the people.
Yeah,
this is a podcast for the people.
Yes.
We support everyone, okay?
Food for the masses.
For the masses.
Now
on to okay. I hope no one's getting annoyed at these episodes because holy listen, okay. So this is going to be our 3rd episode in a row where we just gush and talk and discuss a movie, right?
We are going to have to discuss this one in depth.
It's another 10 out of 10. We're not doing a rating because also, if you have not seen Prince of Darkness by John Carpenter, what are you doing?
Yeah, if you like John Carpenter, watch it.
I know this is a wild take, and I'll say this right off rip.
I'll probably agree with you.
Pretty much like my second favorite Carpenter movie.
If we're talking horror.
Like horror, yes, exactly, right, yeah.
Might be my second favorite.
I know that's crazy, but The Thing is definitely goated. Like, you can't beat The Thing. It's one of my all-time favorite movies ever. It'll never be on the podcast because it's never going to be that low rated. Yeah. But I will admit, like, Prince of Darkness, I think not a lot of people talk about it as, like, a Carpenter film because everyone talks about, like, his other shit. I think it's underrated as a Carpenter movie. It is pretty highly rated for the podcast, but I think
it's getting there.
I think not a lot of people talk about it, and I think more people should. And I think it's definitely like a thinker, and I like how it's
also a slow burn.
I like how it's just the whole vibe is just creepy. It's just darkness,
oppressive. Like,
it's just oppressive. Like, that's how a horror movie should be. Like, there's not a lot of like big scares in it. There's not a lot of big like jump scare. I don't even think there is jump scares, like, really.
2. There's a big one at the very, very end.
But there's so much like cool stuff going on in this movie, and so much like food for thought,
little details that they give to you,
and like it's very like it knows what it is. It has its very, very much its own identity. And I love that about this movie. And I think it is probably, like, if I really think about it, up there with, like, some of my favorite John Carpenter movies.
For me, yeah, I mean, we're talking just in terms of movies that kind of get under my skin. It's probably, second place for me out of his horror movies.
Right, yeah, exactly. Like, I mean, you could talk about his other movies, obviously. Like, I mean, Escape from... Come on. Like, I mean...
Big Trouble in Little China.
Yeah.
Which I like that this movie's kind of a mini reunion of that, because there's 2 actors from that who show up in this.
But I would say, like, yeah, like, horror movies, this is definitely one of my favorite ones.
Because also, this really fits into a unique kind of...
Is it... I know this is going to be the boldest statement I make probably on the entire podcast. I like this more than Halloween.
Oh, yeah.
Like, to be honest, I think it's smarter than Halloween. I think it's more like horror.
Gets
like,
under for me at least. It gets under my skin.
Yeah, it's like it gets to me more than like a slasher film. Like
there's something. I like how bleak and hopeless this movie feels.
Well, it's basically like an apocalypse.
Yeah,
like it's a world-ending event.
Yeah,
that's
and it's
taking
just
place. Yeah,
even the little sprinkling of hope they give you is almost immediately.
So if you don't
dashed.
know, let's give a brief synopsis.
Yeah.
Before we just get fully just go into it.
Our analysis.
It's about the movie follows a priest that goes basically a priest has died, and another priest played by Donald Pleasance. He's just a priest. They don't name him. He's just a priest. He basically finds a book, and this guy was like,
and a key.
He finds a book and a key, and this guy was the guy that died was a member of like the sleeping society,
the Brotherhood of Sleep.
The Brotherhood of Sleep, and so the priest looks into it and goes to the church where this guy was keeping something. And so he finds the door that the key was holding, and he goes down there, and he finds this vat of like swirling green liquid.
And he reaches out to an associate he knows who is heavily into quantum physics and all that hard science stuff, and wants him to look into it and see what is this.
Yeah, like what are we witnessing here? Yeah, why were they so like why were they hiding it?
Yeah.
Like why was it locked? Cuz like he even says at one point that the priest would go down there every single day and like basically like recite stuff from this giant book they found.
Mm-hmm.
So basically the scientists are coming there to research this book, decipher what it's saying, and figure out what the hell is in this vat.
Yep.
And the movie just goes from there. It's very slow burn because it's a lot of research. It's a lot of talking about like what religion is, about like
I love
what evil is, what like.
If you're like me, and I love, I don't know what it is, but I love movies about kind of the process. I love movies about like smart people deciphering, figuring things out.
I love that, but I also love movies about like challenging beliefs.
Yes.
So like challenging what we believe as like faith or like.
And this movie immediately, because there's a big lecture in the very beginning of the movie.
Mm-hmm.
The guy's giving, he talks about like how we think that the universe has order, and all these physical, tangible things, like that this is it. We figured it all out, and time is linear. Well, he kind of says like, no.
Well, I also love how like, what if like the idea of us believing all this like faith and like good and evil and like Jesus and the devil, what if it's all wrong?
Yeah.
What if we're completely wrong about it, and there's a tangible like force that proves that we are wrong about this,
and that it's been just hidden away?
I also do love, and again, if you haven't seen the movie, please please go watch it. Like if you haven't seen this movie, I think it's worth a watch. Some people might not like it. It is pretty slow, and it's very like methodical, and it's very thoughtful in what it's doing. I think he was really cooking here, and I think
he was
like the writers and John Carpenter were going real deep with this one. It is very much a thinker. So if you're not into that, I get it, but I love it.
Yeah, for me, I love the little details. I love the little snippets of information. I love the implications.
I also love movies that are like, okay, so evil exists.
Yeah.
And it's unstoppable.
Yeah. Like it's a physical, tangible force.
Like no matter what you do,
yeah,
it is impossible to stop evil things happening.
Yeah.
Like you can try as much as you want, you can research it as much as you want, you can, philosophize like on how to like stop it, but there is no stopping it. Yeah. I love movies where it's just like evil is just omnipresent.
Yeah, it's a thing.
It's basically like basically like Michael Myers too. Speaking of John Carpenter
and Donald Pleasance.
Yeah. He's just a force of evil.
Yeah.
Like he's an unstoppable force of evil. And this one is just a tangible, like basically a liquid.
Yes.
That is absolute, just pure distilled evil.
And they slowly dole out the information to you through the film.
Yes.
And it's not even done through like heavy exposition. It's just like little details they give you.
I love how so like the one scene where they basically prove that like everything we know about religion is like it's so like if you don't pay attention, they pass over it so quickly because they're deciphering the thing. Because
it's like people who are already in the field discussing it.
Well, they're like deciphering the book, and basically what happens is it basically says that Jesus is an alien.
Yes.
That came down and was trying to warn people. Like he had like disciples and stuff, but he was trying to warn people about this like certain evil liquid that like, and they needed to seal it up.
Yes.
And like basically it would cause the apocalypse if it was over opened.
The liquid is it's the product of Satan. And in this film, universe, whatever you want to call it, Satan is a tangible, real thing.
Well, and basically he's
the mirror image of like our world, like what you consider as good. It's the
I love how he's
anti-God.
Basically, the devil is like this interdimensional being.
Yes.
Like this interdimensional evil that like is the mirror image of our goodness, of our good like safe lives.
Yes.
Right. And they do that a lot where there's a lot of metaphors about mirrors and like how, you know, if there is a good, there has to be a bad because that's the mirror image of the mirror image of good is bad. I know.
And this is all done through. It's not
like big exposition.
It's
dumps.
not dumbed down, is what I'll say.
Right. Well, and like I like how Carpenter doesn't assume that his audience is stupid.
Yeah.
Right. Because like you're watching this and they're explaining it not in like layman's terms. They're not like they're not very.
Well, there's also scenes where it's like.
But they're all talking like scientists, and you still get it.
Well, there's also scenes where there's a woman who's translating, and it'll just show like a passage from this book translated on the screen, and it just prints off, and you see it for like 5 seconds, and it's gone.
Well, and they never talk about those sometimes. Like, they talk about, like, Jesus being an alien, and they talk about, like, this other stuff, and, like, how it's challenging, you know, modern religion.
That basically, they thought it was easier to believe that evil was, like, a spiritual kind of
And I love the idea of the priest, played by Donald Pleasance, like, that he's basically, his entire view of religion is just challenged at that moment. He doesn't know what to believe. Like, he's like, there's no way they were hiding this forever.
And then he's like, they decided it was easier to convince the masses that evil was a spiritual thing. It's not physical, tangible.
Right.
So they locked this thing up and decided to tell the people that, you know, it's just a spirit. It's like...
It's not physical.
Yeah.
There's nothing physical about evil, right? But now...
Because it's saying...
His entire view has changed because now there is physical evil, a physical liquid distilled evil.
Not just that, but it exists on our, like, subatomic level.
Yes. It's just crazy that we're even talking about, like, this movie like this, because it sounds... And this is, like, big brain...
It's
like,
very...
high concept.
Yeah.
Because I haven't quite seen a movie like this.
I've never seen anything like this.
It's kind of, like, insane that they even did this.
Yes.
And I get why it's, like, not talked about a lot. I think it should be talked about more. But a lot of people are like, this is, like, weird for, like, a John Carpenter movie. Like,
or any horror movie.
Like, where's, like, the slasher? Where's, like, the alien that comes down and kills everyone?
Instead, it's high concept, like...
And people, I mean, don't get me wrong. People die in this movie. It doesn't, like... It doesn't happen, like, very often. There's a few, like, pretty brutal deaths. Like, the security guys working there.
Talking about the bicycle?
Yeah, gets stabbed.
Impaled by Alice Cooper.
By a makeupless Alice Cooper. Well, he's in like pale makeup, but he's
Yeah.
not in like his typical, black makeup.
Well, because there's like a thing about, and again, little details, because you see all these like bugs throughout the movie, and later on, one of the professor kind of makes a comment about like worker ants and how they're all drawn to a higher purpose that they're not quite aware of, but they're drawn to this purpose by some force.
Well, because that's why you get like the worms on the windows, or like the beetles around everything.
But there's a big thing with like random like homeless people who are just kind of like drawn to something, and you don't really know initially because you just see them like kind of, they're almost like.
Do you think it's a metaphor for like how like weak-willed things are drawn to like the evil presence?
I would say either that or like things that are invisible to us. Because there's a scene very early on of like, it's just the college campus, and it's just people going about their business, and it zooms in on like an anthill, just kind of frantically going about.
Right.
But it's almost like things we don't really think about.
But do you think that's why like the homeless people were drawn, because
Yeah.
they're more like considered more like weak-willed and like?
I would say that, and the fact that they're kind of almost, you don't really think about them. They're just kind of like
Right.
invisible, but they exist as like a collective that you can use.
Well, because their whole like task is to keep them inside the church. That is like the entire like reason they are there. And if they try and get out, they will kill them.
There's also a great part where Donald Pleasance is going in the church, and a homeless lady comes up to him and is like, thank you for what you're doing in there. Like, I'm so glad the church is open again. Mm-hmm. That it's like,
well, I love how her voice is distorted.
Yeah,
too.
it's not quite right.
It's not quite right. Like her voice, it's like this weird,
But
like
it's almost
distorted voice.
I just love how it just feels almost inevitable that that priest would die before he passed on his mission to another priest, and that they had to be there, and they had to be there at the perfect time with this like black hole that opened up in the universe at that exact time, and it's like you can't avoid this event.
Yeah, it was like an intergalactic supernova that was happening.
And there's a scene where one of the guys is just watching. He's got his TV on, and they're talking about this supernova that occurs, and how there's like particles just exploded throughout the universe, and it's like a once in a several thousand year event that happened.
Well, and of course, it's like this galactic explosion in space that's happening, and all these particles are getting pushed through. So now, like, basically the tether is getting like thinner,
and then
that's why this liquid is able to like escape.
And then the whole movie, everyone keeps talking about how the atmosphere is like, there's something in the air, something's wrong.
Well, and you can feel it. I mean, this, like you said, this movie's oppressive.
Yeah.
There's nothing like good. There's no like happy moments in this movie, really. It's very bleak. It's very dark.
Yeah.
It's a very cold movie.
Yeah.
And I love that because it's like, it's a horror movie. It's supposed to make you feel like uncomfortable. And it kind of does the entire movie. You're never quite like in a warm place. You never quite meet any character in a warm, like comfortable place. They're all just kind of researching. It's very cold. It's very calculated. And then it gets even colder when like all the demonic shit starts happening.
But they're clearly up against something that's beyond their comprehension.
Yeah.
That they really can't deal with.
I don't know. Like there's so much. It's such a good movie. I don't know.
It's like, so. It's like about.
You want to talk about like the possession or?
Because basically, so they research this thing. They find out that this vial, this tube with this green goo that they keep talking about how it's like, there's like life suddenly emanating out of it.
Yeah.
And it keeps spinning faster and faster and faster, like something's going on in there. But they also talk about how it's locked in from inside.
It's sealed, and it has been sealed for thousands of years.
Millions.
Yeah, millions of years. Where it, like, the only way it can open it is from the inside. But it's also dripping.
Well, that it starts slowly,
like seeping out.
yeah, and essentially, it seeps out enough, and basically it's like it's possesses people through this green liquid spraying on them.
I love how they handle the possession because it's not like
It's like,
well, like it again, it challenges like the whole like thing of like, you know, we're meant to believe that all these like demons are like spiritual, right?
yeah,
But this is a physical thing going into you, not a spirit. It's not a spirit going into you.
it's physical.
It's physical liquid going into you.
It's like an infection.
Yeah.
And it's even more pronounced at the very end of the movie when everything's quote unquote over, and you see everyone like laying there, and it's like a mist emanating from them.
Yeah.
It's like the sickness is gone,
Yeah. But I mean, they're all dead.
but it's a physical entity.
Yeah. It's a physical like liquid entity, and it sprays into like this one woman's mouth because it pools on the ceiling, and then sprays into her mouth, and she like starts killing people. And then to pass it on, they spray it into each other's mouths. Because again, it's a physical thing.
Yeah. And there's a great part where it's like this woman and this guy who is waiting for her because he's like, okay, this is stupid. This is pointless. I'm leaving. I'm going home.
Yeah.
And he's just waiting in a parking lot. And I love how it's just empty. It's like the middle of downtown LA, but the whole place atmosphere is just empty. There's nothing.
Well, again, it's like apocalyptic.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
And it's just this empty parking lot. He's just waiting. And you see all the homeless people like just standing there watching him. And then suddenly she appears on like the top of these like stairs. And she has these like black-eyed pupils just staring at him. And suddenly he's like covered in bugs.
Well, he was also arguing with the other two scientists,
Telling them to go home.
telling them to go home, and he's like, "No, I'm gonna leave.
Yeah.
Like, you guys are crazy.
This is all bullshit.
This is all bullshit. Like, I can't believe we're believing all this shit. Like,
Yeah.
because I mean, if you were like challenged with that,
Yeah.
that is some crazy fucking shit, right? That is some insano shit. Mm-hmm. like intergalactic beings. Jesus is an alien. Evil is like a liquid in a vial
That's
like
been sitting there for thousands of years.
the devil exists in like a mirror dimension.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, it's all fucking
And it's his son
that's
in the vial.
That's
as a
insane.
green liquid.
Yeah. His son is a liquid.
And like little details, like, when it comes, there's going to be one person who is chosen. Big detail. And there's this woman who, there's a scene, and again, you just blink and miss it, where she gets scared by something, and she like walks backward and she bumps her arm against one of the instruments measuring the green like vial or whatever, and she bumps her hand really hard. And as the movie progresses, it's like it turns into it goes from like a bruise to like a rash, and then
It's like a masonry, like
it's a symbol.
Symbol.
Yeah, for like magic.
Yeah, it's like what like magicians used.
But it's also a symbol that's present in the fucking
The big tome, the big
like
book.
5 dead languages.
Yeah, one like I love the book too because it's like it's crazy. Like they rewrote over like different like Latin and like Mesopotamian and like all this stuff, and you can tell it's like been just written over and over and over and over in the like the modern languages as this thing has like been sealed. And that's I love like the whole like fucking with something that they don't understand, because obviously these like priests of the sleep or whatever have been like sealing this thing for like eons.
It's just been like a guy, generations and generations, just one guy who just sits there guarding it.
Right. And not letting it get out. And of course, they want to research it.
Yeah.
They have no idea what they're fucking with.
But it's also like, it's almost like you can't avoid it because it's locked from inside.
Yeah.
And it's like this supernova event occurs in the universe, and
Well, of course, he dies, so there's no one to protect it anymore.
Yeah.
Right?
He doesn't pass it on to another person.
Exactly. But yeah, like getting back to that scene where it's like the woman standing at the top of the stairs, and he's just standing there, and like bugs start, like beetles are all over him. And then one of the homeless women just like start like,
it's like a Dario Argento scene,
like dead sprinting at him with like a half of a scissors.
Yeah, because it's just like you see like a close up,
and it's just like the zoom shot of her like holding the scissors, and it's zooming, and like she starts like stabbing him a bunch of times.
And then there's like a scene where it's just her like, it's like her just standing over him. And like just beetles crawling all over him, and like a severed hand.
Yep. And you're like, okay, that was fucking weird. Like, I wonder what.
There's another one of my favorites is the woman who's translating. She goes off to sleep, and the first woman who got infected goes into her room, like crawls over her and just sprays the liquid in her. And then they're all about to have a meeting. And a guy is like going to get her to go to have a meeting. And he sees her, and she's just like typing something.
Well, she's just staring off in the distance, typing something.
Yeah. He can't get her attention. And he goes over to see what the hell is going on while she's typing. And it's just over and over, repeating. Just, I live, I live, I live, I live, I live.
And then he finally gets over there and it starts typing like, you will not...
It says, you will not be saved by the Holy Ghost. You will not be saved by the god plutonium. In fact, you will not be saved. Just all caps.
Well, and I love how it's like, that's the mirror thing, right? So, like, in this world or this lore...
Yeah.
Essentially, if, like, there's a distilled evil...
Yeah.
There's most likely a distilled good.
Yeah.
Somewhere.
Yeah.
Right? And I wonder if that's why they mentioned like a god plutonium.
Yeah.
Where it's like, you know, there is like a substance that is basically the god substance of this evil.
Yeah. And the opposite is plutonium.
Exactly.
Yeah, it's like it names off the Holy Ghost and plutonium and says that's it, you're fucked.
And then one also says like, in fact, no one will save you.
Basically, you're doomed.
And she's like, they knock him over, and she starts kissing him, and you hear this gurgling, like watery noise.
And then there's an awesome scene. So before I even watched this movie, I saw a clip of this scene, and it got me curious. They're all having this meeting, and this is also a scene where a big thing comes in because you wonder, like, why is it called the Brotherhood of Sleep?
Yeah.
Essentially, when you're in presence of this thing...
I like how this is, like, basically early found footage.
It's extremely early, just really fucking creepy found footage. Essentially, everyone who's in range of this thing experiences the same...
Like a premonition.
Yeah. The same... Everyone... It's shared amongst everybody. And you see slowly they reveal this thing. It's like this found footage shot of the church that they're in, and the doors.
Oh, well, like a broadcast plays over it.
Yeah, it's like a radio broadcast.
Yeah.
You get like little snippets, like we're broadcasting
this is
not
from
a dream. This is
year,
not a dream.
Yeah.
If anyone has ever listened to DJ Shadow, I know he sampled this audio in one of his songs, but it's just this thing saying, "This is not a dream. This is not a dream.
We are broadcasting from the year blah 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 blah
1999."
Yeah.
And it's the doors opening, and this cloaked figure just standing there.
Yeah.
And everyone wakes up right before you see what the hell it is. Just everyone wakes up. And it's them talking about, like, they discuss, like, how is that possible?
Right.
That we're all doing having the same dream. And one of them talks about, and again, this is like more of the high concept insanity. He talks about tachyons and how essentially what it's happening is at some point in the future, somebody is transmitting something at the speed of light at the same point, and it's landing years backwards in this time of theirs.
Right.
And they're saying it's being sent as something that happens. So it's not like It's not fantasy, but it's something that actually occurs. But they're sending it back as a warning.
Right.
As they all have, then they're all just sitting there like, what the fuck? And then you hear a noise. Somebody saying hello and like a weird monster noise.
Yeah, like, hello.
And this is the clip that I saw long before I even watched the movie.
I love this clip so much. So they look out the window, and it's just the guy in the white suit.
Death, yeah.
He got stabbed to death. He's just standing in the same spot.
And it's just like pure darkness.
Well, it's a very far shot.
Yeah.
So you don't like see like what he looks like. It's like kind of obscured because it's so far away.
Yeah.
It almost looks blurry in a way.
But it's just like darkness and just him. And he's just like, I've got
But
a
you can
message
see
for
like
you.
all this black shit around like the bottom of his like where he's standing.
He's just like, I've got a message for you, and you're not gonna like it. And then they're all just like, what is, like, look at his chest, and you see like his coat burst open.
And it's all just beetles everywhere. And it shows his face, and it's all fucked up and like split in two and shit like that. And you can see all the stab wounds and shit.
He just pray for death. And then his head falls off, and his whole body just collapses.
I like how it was like basically saying the beetles were communicating with them.
Yeah.
Like the insects like literally recreated a body just to like
to troll them.
Yeah, just to be like, get fucked, nerds. Like, you're fucking dead. You're fucking dead.
Yeah, it literally just did that to troll them.
Yeah, it literally, yeah. And I love that scene because like when his head rolls off and he just collapses into like a meat puppet.
Yeah, it's incredible. And oh my god, I love the music in this movie.
Music's great.
It's like a constant pulsing, just sinister synth beat for the whole movie.
Well, it's Carpenter, so obviously like the soundtrack is amazing.
There's not a single moment of this movie where there's not like some sort of sinister music
like
being
synthy,
played.
like stuff going on. And I do love the scene where the guy's bringing up because he just got possessed, the black guy, and he's bringing up the chair singing Amazing Grace. And he just breaks off like a part of it and just like slits his own throat. And
you think he's dead. And then he ends up like being reanimated again by the fucking goo or whatever.
I also do love I don't like the woman with the like symbol goes to lay down.
To go to sleep.
Yeah. And so like shit is like hit the fan, right? Like everyone's possessed at this point, like except for like a few people.
Mm-hmm.
And
desperately hiding.
Yeah, they're desperately hiding. They like barred up all the windows. He's like, I like how he's in this closet, but the door looks like a confessional.
Yes.
Like I think that was intentional because every time he looks through it, like you can see the confessional like screen on him.
Because basically he goes in that room, and at this point, a couple of them, the possessed people, they wheeled in the giant tube of green liquid in there.
Yeah, well, and they rolled it right up next to the woman with the symbol on her arm.
And he walks in there, and because he's like wondering what the hell's going on, and he walks in there, he sees the vial, and you hear like spraying, and he looks up, and the whole ceiling is just green goo.
When you see this, like where it's like coming from, and it like slowly follows down, and it's her, and just like green liquid like pouring out of her fucking eyes and her mouth.
Yeah.
It's such a cool shot. It looks so good.
And because they mentioned earlier, it's this when it happens, whatever it is going to pick a human host.
All right, and now all the liquid is going through her basically, and so he like gets freaked out obviously because they start like
the other possessed
trying to attack him.
There,
and he goes in and locks himself in a closet, and then he's like looking around. And he taunts them a little bit, which is crazy because that's one of our favorite.
Probably my favorite line in the movie.
I usually liked being dominated by women.
Normally, I love being dominated by women. It's just the two of them staring at him, and the other one's just laying in bed being fucking demonically transformed.
Well, I love how like first she's pregnant.
Yeah.
And then like it like kind of forms to her body, and then you just hear like bones cracking and
it
like
starts like rotting her skin.
like skin like goes away and like I just love how like at this point they're trying to like dig a hole through the wall because he's on the other side of the wall to the other survivors. There's only like at this point I think 4 survivors.
There's
5 because you got the priest
who just
the professor and like
pieces out
the priest, the professor, Walter, the woman, and the guy.
Yeah.
The
priest goes and hides in a room with a giant mirror. And he, at some point, he just starts reading through his Bible and being like, please, like, where...
He's like, where are you, God? Like, God, I need you.
Like, we are doomed. Help us.
Like, this evil has gotten out of control.
Yeah. And they keep having the dream.
Well, and the guy who's saying Amazing Grace keeps looking at a mirror, right? And just, like, smiling. This guy, this actor is so good at like
he's doing like it's like a crying laughter. It's so
it's so convincing though because you can't tell if he's like in pain. Well, you can like is he in pain or is he like like I don't even know. Like it looks like he's in pain but happy at the same time. It's crazy
because he's like touching the mirror and like he's happy and then he's like sad like and you just like.
When he's crying while smiling, he did such like the actor does such a good job, like just because he barely says anything in this, like he doesn't say anything.
Yeah,
but he's emoting so much. Like there's tears coming out. He's smiling and like in pain at the same time. It's such a cool like,
and you don't know why.
Yeah, you're like, what the hell is going on?
But
you'll figure out soon.
Well, they have a conversation, where they talk about how, what if. There, we have this like our God or our world, and then what if this thing is the anti? It's a mirror image of what we have. Yeah. So for like the good, there has to be a mirror image of evil, and like where we have our God, there's an anti-God.
Yeah.
And they harp on that mirror part.
The antithesis of good.
Yes.
And so. The guy trapped in the closet, he starts looking around and he sees this woman, like, her skin's decomposing and shit, and she, like, finally wakes up.
She wakes up and she starts immediately being able to move objects.
Well, because they also said that, like, he would be able to manipulate. Like, they would be, like, this demon would be able to manipulate things and move things around and, like, basically project themselves anywhere. And so it, like... breaks the door a little bit.
Yeah, just enough for the other two to start, like, busting through it.
And so they're, like, desperate to get this guy through. And this fucking woman that's a demon starts, like, moving everything around. And one of the guys gets out of the room and, like, they, like...
Remember, she has a little makeup mirror that she drops on the ground. And she looks at it, like...
And she's, like...
super happy.
And she picks it up, and she's like...
And it lights up. It, like, lights up her face.
She's like, Father!
Yeah.
And, like, sticks her 2 fingers into the mirror.
And you see, like...
How they did this shot, I don't know.
You see, like, this black void and just 2 fingers, like, reaching through.
When it looks like, like mercury, basically. Yeah. And, like, she can't get through.
So she throws it away.
Yeah, because it's too small of a mirror. It's too small. You can't bring a whole fucking ass daddy demon out of it, okay? Daddy demon's too big for that shit.
Yep.
So I don't know. I love how they finish this off because I also, let's just be honest, like it's one of the craziest ways to stun one of like your enemies I've ever seen in my entire life. Mm-hmm. The professor shaking up a can of soda. And with a chopstick and like sprays him with the soda and they beat him up a little bit and he stabs the chopstick through his eye.
Well, because I love that it's like, because that guy, it's like even though they're like possessed, they still have their physical limitations. Mm-hmm. Because that guy had his neck broken. So the whole time he's like walking around like But it's like if you blind them in the eye, it's like they'll still be blind.
Right, because they're just possessed.
Yeah.
They're not zombies or anything.
It's not like he's like fucking superhuman. So yeah, he just sprays the soda to fucking blind him.
I always laughed at that scene because I'm like, what a wild way to stun like your enemy.
Because they're just like looking for
spray him with soda.
Anything they got.
You just see him like shaking up the soda, and you're like, what the fuck is he gonna do with that? And he sprays him with it. And then that like leaves enough room for this guy to get out, and he like takes out another person on the way.
Yeah.
And starts like seeing if he can distract like the demon.
Because the main possessed woman, the host, walks in the room with the mirror and is like, again, is immediately giddy and just like, Father, and the whole thing just lights up.
Yep.
And so the guy starts fighting with the guy who cut his throat earlier.
He starts he climbs on top of him and like starts like trying to choke him out.
And meanwhile, the freaking priest is like, he's like saying his prayers and like, he's like, you know, he gets an axe.
And he's like, I can stop it.
And he cuts, and she has her arm in the void thing. And he cuts it off, and you just see like the severed arm just float away. And she immediately grows another arm.
And he cuts off her head, and she just picks up her head and puts it back on her body.
And then there's like a giant...
like furnace?
There's like a giant pizza oven, and she just moves it and like...
jams him.
Basically just jams him against the wall.
And I do love the scene where... so they finally get Walter through the wall, right? And these two other possessed women come through with him that are trying to get to him. And they just toss them out the window.
Well, they toss one of them out the window, and they think it's fine, and then the other one crawls through and attacks him, and he like
backflips her out the
like
window
Bruce
too.
Lee's her out of the window.
It's fucking awesome. They just they just throw both of them out like trash.
And oh my god, I love when... so
this final ending scene.
I love...
it's not the very end, but
not quite. But this is one of the coolest things I've ever seen.
But this scene is fucking awesome.
I love when one of the women who's not possessed, when she sees the like host woman reaching through that mirror for whoever it is. I love when she just sees it and is just like, she looks like she's on the verge of like tears and throwing up.
Well, because like, how do you comprehend that?
Well, I love it's almost like, what would you do in the presence of pure, unspeakable evil? Like
literally coming through to our world.
Because what you see is that woman reaches her hand through the mirror, is in like that mirror world, black void, and you see her hand like reaching out, and then you see another hand come into frame, and it's like a handshake. And she starts pulling it back, and it's one of the coolest shots in any movie of her holding hands with this red demon hand.
Like this gigantic red demon hand. And it doesn't look like corny or anything. It looks really fucking cool.
It's just so awesome. I love that image. Is so cool.
Yeah. Literally trying to pull Daddy Demon through the fucking mirror.
Yeah. Like Satan, basically. Yeah. As a tangible, real thing that exists in this mirror world, trying to pull him through.
And as she's like, the main woman's trying to like figure everything out, right?
And she just looks like...
And you see the forearm get through. It's up to like the demon's forearm, like Daddy, like Satan's forearm, and the woman just like takes action and grabs the woman, like the possessed woman, and like they both fall into the mirror.
And you see both of them just fly through it.
Now this is my favorite shot of the entire movie, because the priest breaks the mirror so that the demon can't get through again, and you just see the woman. The unpossessed woman that saved the day, just like desperately trying to swim back through the mirror.
You see her like reaching out,
and you see
help.
like lightning in the water, and like it's like this like void, but like you see her like barely like illuminated,
her screaming for like
trying to get back through the mirror. It's fucking awesome,
and it like flashes and then just goes to dark.
Yep. It's fucking insane. It's so good.
And then like all the possessed bodies,
like you said, they like exasperate a like a mist.
Yeah. And then, the homeless people They just scatter.
Well, it's like back to normal, right?
Yeah.
There's cars on the street again. There's like, you know, everything's fine. Like there's cops. We finally get like more people
For the first time.
In
Since like the 20 minutes into the movie, yeah.
Yeah, it's like we got like an hour of just hanging out with just the researchers.
You never saw any other cars, nothing.
You don't see anyone else.
Yeah.
Because after they get off the campus, it's literally just the oppressive church.
Yeah.
That's it. That's all you get. And the homeless people. That's it.
That's it.
And so now there's like all these other people, like cops around. They're like
taking bodies out.
They're taking out the bodies and everything.
The priest is like, we did it. Like, and then he says, you know, the future that we saw in that dream, it won't
happen. It won't come to fruition.
We did it, we saved it. And then it's like the guy, because they build up through the movie that him and this girl are in love. And it's like him staring at the shattered mirror.
And he sees himself.
And it's the professor telling him, like, you know, like, this was like a collective force. We stopped this, and like she did it to save us.
She had to sacrifice herself.
She sacrificed herself to save the world. And then the fucking nightmare starts again. And you see the found footage, and it's the full thing of them saying, you know, this is not a dream. We're broadcasting from the year 1999, and we are doing this. It's basically them saying that they're broadcasting this as a dream to stop future events.
Yes.
From 1999. Y2K.
Yes.
Say that, okay?
Mm-hmm.
And you finally see it. The figure coming out of the church, the dark figure that they've been fucking hiding, and it's the woman.
If she comes out and he wakes up and
it's just her, like no expression, nothing, just walking out of the church and just him waking up from the nightmare.
And she's right next to him.
And it's the fucking deformed, fucked up host woman.
And so he screams and he wakes up again.
Yeah.
And then he's like, oh, like he's like in like a full sweat, right?
And he looks at his mirror. And I love, he has a poster of like a galaxy in his room. And from a distance,
it looks like a demon.
It looks like a fucking demon staring right at you.
I love how Carpenter ended this fucking movie. So basically, he looks at the mirror, right? And he like starts touching his face, like, you know, like, oh, good, I'm not going crazy. And then he's like, what if? Right? Because I mean, you've seen some crazy shit. You've seen someone reach into a mirror. So like, you're like,
and it's the woman he loved. Yeah.
So it's the woman he loved. He had that premonition. He's like, what if? And so he like goes to like touch the mirror, right?
And it's just the shot of his hand getting closer and
right
closer.
before he touches the mirror, movie ends.
Movie end.
Like, I love how it keeps it ambiguous. Like, you have no fucking idea.
Well, plus, like, you don't even know what are they... Like, you don't even really know what they're implying with that nightmare.
Well, like, it gives you... So this movie gives you a ton of information, right? But then it gives you no information on what's really, like, that relevant.
Because it's like...
Like, you know what the vial is, you know what the liquid is, you know, like, what they're trying... What the antagonists are trying to do.
What the end game is,
You know what the end game is, like, world domination, like, trying to, like,
destruction,
get
whatever,
this fucking devil through the mirror.
Yeah.
But you have no idea, like, anything else.
Yeah.
Like, you don't...
But the implications they give you are not good.
No. You have no idea. It never gives you an idea of what this premonition, like, means.
Because basically what they're saying is, in the future, in this year, there's scientists or whoever who are sending broadcasts as nightmares to stop some bad, horrible shit from happening.
Yeah. One that's going to be in, like... This was made in 1987, 1999 was like...
Y2K.
Yeah,
whatever.
It was basically like 10 years... Like,
so assume that they just probably said, okay, Millennium, Y2K has, you know...
Right.
There's crazy beliefs around it, whatever, we'll pick that.
Yeah.
But it's like, there's something happens, and they're trying to stop it, and it's like... You see the dark figure coming out of the church.
Well, again, it's like implying that this is unstoppable.
And it's almost like you don't even know, but for me, when I'm watching it, the implication I get is it's unstoppable, and it's like the figure that comes out of the mirror world is her, but as like like that's Satan's form.
Yeah.
And it's like, That's almost the implication I get.
Yeah.
Like, whatever they're implying, it's not good.
Or that she's like the new chosen one.
Yeah.
Basically, that's going to bring apart...
that she's going to bring the apocalypse.
Bring the apocalypse and bring Satan to Earth.
And that's it. It's unstoppable.
Yeah. It's great. I love this movie. I love it so much. It's so high concept. It's such an interesting, like, cool concept for a horror movie that I've never seen before.
Yeah.
Like, I've never seen such in-depth, like, shit on, like, an alien Jesus and, like, weird mirror dimensions. And physics. And, like, trying to explain, like, religion through science and all that. Like, just a bunch of... It's so cool.
And, yeah, like, fucking, you know, how tachyons work and all this crazy stuff. And so many little details that they give you to kind of piece this, you know, mystery together.
I would argue, I mean, this might be too crazy, but, like, it's kind of like, I think it was, like, rather groundbreaking for, like, when it was released, too, because you get, like...
It's still groundbreaking.
Some, like, found footage shit. You get some, like, really high concept, like, for horror movies.
Yeah, the found footage nightmare stuff is... like, that is really ahead of its time. Because as soon as that starts, you're just kind of like, whoa.
You're like, holy shit.
Like, it looks creepy.
Mm-hmm.
There's just the fucking shaky footage, the weird, like, distorted, you know, like, this is not a dream. And then this, like, dark figure in this, like, that they can't focus on. It's just, it's so creepy.
Yeah. Well, we've seen, like, intergalactic horror movies, like, you know, like From Beyond and stuff like that. But a lot of those, like, kind of harken back to, like, H.P. Lovecraft kind of stuff, like, you know, like Cthulhu and, like, Mouth of Madness kind of stuff. Or, like, you know, stuff like that. But this is, like, not really that.
It's its own thing.
I like how it's not really Lovecraftian. It's very much just, like, this writer and John Carpenter were like, let's make it like an interdimensional Exorcist movie.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
Yeah.
I love it. I think it's so good, and I think it's so well done. The acting is, like, top notch. The effects are so good. The soundtrack, everything just works in this movie for me. Like, again, that's why it's, like, probably one of my favorite John Carpenter movies.
No, it's definitely,
like horror movies. I don't know. There's just like a lot to love here, especially if you're into this kind of like slow burn, like scientific, like sci-fi horror.
Yeah, if you just.
But it's like sci-fi horror, but it's not. It's like
really.
There's a lot. There's a lot going on.
It's very This is definitely one of those movies that there is a lot of details. There's a lot of information.
And I'm sure there's even stuff I missed. Every time I watch this movie, there's something I catch again.
There's so many little, like, there's so much foreshadowing, so much little information that they give you in the, like, early on, that if you pay attention, pays off later.
Yeah.
Because it is very science-based. Despite the fact that it deals with some crazy shit, like, so much of it is rooted in physics and all kinds of stuff, and you can tell that they really looked into this stuff when they were making this.
Well, like, they just popped off. It was kind of, it's very, I don't know. There's a lot to, like, just think about with this movie. It's a very, like, you don't even need to, like, I think, like, if you watch it with your friends, just, like, you could honestly, like, have a conversation about, like, what this movie means, like, and, like, what, if that was real life, what those implications could mean too.
Yeah. Like, what does the ending signify to you? Because they don't give you a clear...
It's ambiguous.
Yeah.
It's ambiguous. Like, it's like they don't give you a clear... They never tell you what the premonition is about.
But what I love is that it's just, you know, you think for just a brief second, you get a happy ending, and then... Well,
because you got to think, they didn't actually destroy the vial.
No.
They never destroyed that giant...
They never destroyed it, but you did see it was empty eventually.
Yeah.
Because all of the liquid was gone. But it's like, that's why, you know, the priest is like, hey, we did it, we stopped it. But with that premonition and all this stuff, it's like, no.
But what if there's still a connection with, like, him and, like, bringing it back through, because, like, now the vial is all in that mirror dimension, right? Because it, like, all went into this woman, and now she's in the mirror dimension, but, like, if he connects with that, what's stopping it from pulling it back into, like, our world?
Yeah, and he has a reason to want to connect with it.
Yeah, well, and, like, it's unsealed now.
Yeah.
It's, like, it's pure evil.
And it's almost like he's just, now he is going to be, like, permanently heartbroken or whatever. And you get that ending of him just, what if? What if I can pull her through?
I honestly, like, with my thoughts on the movie, I honestly think, like, he's, like, the implication is he's going to pull evil back through. Yeah. Because of the premonition and stuff.
Which is great.
Yeah.
And I love that.
Like, I think I agree with you where she's supposed to be, like,
the harbinger of evil.
The personification of Satan.
Yeah. It's almost like, you know, it's interesting. I mean, this is me theorizing, right? Because before she pops into the mirror, you never see who the figure is in the church.
Yeah.
Right? You never see it. But as soon as she pops into the mirror, you get the full nightmare, and it's her walking out.
Yeah.
And I'm almost theorizing, it's almost as if her sacrificing herself brings on, like, the apocalypse.
Yeah.
Because now there is a tangible figure. If that makes sense.
Yeah. Well, because it was never a figure.
So it's like,
it was a figure, but you never knew who it was.
Well, it's like they send that message to them to get them to change what happens.
Yeah.
And they do change what happens, but in a worse way.
Yes.
If that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
And again,
I also think the mirror dimension is symbolic of hell. That's how I interpret it.
Yeah.
Like, that has to be hell. Because you don't pull a demon through a mirror if it's not hell.
Well, that's the thing. It's like it is. In this universe, it's, you know, we have our world, and then there's the opposite. There's the good, and then there's an opposite world that is just evil and darkness and bad shit.
Oh, man. I could go on with this movie forever. Like, it's so good. I don't know. I just love, like, high concept shit like this. I love, like, just movies that kind of, you don't know what to expect, and it just, like, kind of, like, blows you out of the water with, like, how, like, much it makes you think, how much it kind of challenges a bunch of stuff, and, like, kind of makes you think of, like, what if this was real life? What if it actually happened? What if, like, it'd be fucking insane.
Well, plus I was also thinking about, like, like they came up with this. This wasn't based on a book. Wasn't based on a pre-existing...
This is an original idea.
Yeah, it wasn't based on a pre-existing property. Like, this was just... They wrote this, came up with it, and it's an original, purely original concept.
Yeah.
And that is crazy.
That is insane that they came up with this. And it's under 2 hours.
And it's an 80s horror movie, so it's under 2 hours.
Like, that is insane.
I forgot to mention, I love the opening credits. I love that they're like
for 10 minutes.
I love that they're like 10 minutes long of just this sinister, like, music and them just setting up everything while they do the opening credits over the course of like 10 minutes. I love that.
Yeah, it's crazy, but I love it. Like, watching this for the first time, you don't know what to expect.
No.
Like,
I remember when I watched this for the first time, because this is one of those movies that the first time I watched it, I think maybe 5 minutes in, I was immediately like, okay, I dig it. Because you get all this, like, weird imagery, you get, like, them talking, like, super scientific stuff, and then there's just, like this really sinister undertone.
Yeah, well, and I also love how it's kind of like, you know, my favorite horror movie is The Exorcist.
Yeah.
It's kind of like that, where The Exorcist kind of, like, subvert your expectations of, like, it being a horror movie because it's kind of like a family drama.
Yeah.
Like centered around the horror, but the horror doesn't happen until, I mean, like weird shit starts happening with Reagan.
Yeah.
But it's like the real horror doesn't start until like almost the end of the movie where they actually do the exorcism. But it, you know, the rest of the movie is about like the investigation and like, you know, trying to figure out what's wrong with Reagan and like a mother's like love for her daughter and like Father Karras battling with his like, you know, like
his inner demons.
His inner demons and his loss of faith and like his love for his mother and all this stuff. And that's what this movie does, where it's like, it's a horror movie, yes, but it's like scientific method. What if God is like, what if our perception of God is not what we interpret it as? What if Jesus is completely different and like the Vatican and stuff knows about this, but doesn't want to reveal it because people could not handle the fact that Jesus is an alien. Like
evil is real.
Yeah, and evil is like a real, like physical liquid,
like pure evil.
Yeah, and that's crazy because I love those kind of movies where it's like kind of subverts your expectations on like what a horror movie can be. Like it doesn't have to be just like a cut and dry like, ooh, jump scare, jump scare, jump scare, jump scare, ghost, ghost, ghost. You know, here it is.
Because when you read the synopsis of this, the simple synopsis is always just, you know, somebody uncovers a vial of green liquid in a church. People investigate, and you know, evil things happen, and it's like, yeah, sure.
But it's not. I love like those. That's why like these are some of my favorite horror movies because they're not your typical horror movies. They're not like just these generic horror movies that they just shit out. Yeah. It's not like Blumhouse where it's like, just, here you go. Here's the hot topic horror thing we're gonna do now, right? It's like high concept. It challenges its audience, and I like that. I like that a lot. I like movies that challenge the audience to kind of like think differently about what you think a horror movie can be. And I know that's kind of like a big statement, but I love those horror movies that can do that and still be really creepy and horrific when you think of like the implications and just like oppressive and dark and stuff like that. It's like Jacob's Ladder, for instance, too, where just kind of like it's not your typical horror movie.
So yeah, you can write a nice little quick synopsis to, you know, make it sound like that, but then you watch it and it's like, okay,
there's a lot more going on than just like people find an evil liquid.
Yeah,
you know,
it's like, yeah, sure, but
there's a lot going on for that. Yeah, yeah, but that's why I like it. That's why I love these kind of horror movies. And I'm not trying to get long-winded here. Like I could go on and on about this movie. It's a really, really great movie. I think it's one of Carpenter's best. I think he was cooking really, really good with this one. Not quite as good as The Thing, I will admit. The Fog is also good. If you haven't seen The Fog, go watch The Fog. That one's really good. If you're talking about like Carpenter movies that no one talks about, The Fog is also very good.
Very fun movie.
Mouth of Madness is pretty good too.
Great movie.
There's a lot of like good ones. Just look into his catalog. Watch some Carpenter movies that you haven't seen.
Watch Prince of Darkness.
That is specifically, yes. If you haven't seen Prince of Darkness, please go watch it. Please. I know we just ruined the entire movie for you.
You already know what happens, but you should...
I told you to watch it at the beginning of this episode.
You were warned.
I'm telling you again. If that sounds like something you would like a slow burn, high concept, like sci-fi horror, dimensional horror thing, go watch Prince of Darkness. Yeah. You will not... It will not steer you wrong.
It's
so good.
Never seen anything like this before.
No. And I'll do it. If anyone has any suggestions on what the fuck movie is even remotely like this, please.
Movie, book, game.
Please
I'll take it.
Let us know because
I want to know.
I want more shit like this.
Yeah.
I want more like intergalactic, interdimensional, like Satan shit.
Yeah, just like evil as a tangible force.
Yeah. I would love that.
And, you know, like smart people investigating it. Like experts in their field. I love that shit.
It's so good.
I love movies about experts doing expert shit.
Well, because like,
I love it.
We've seen the movie where dumb people get killed. Like we watch those movies all the time.
Yeah.
Like give me smart people trying to figure out shit.
Yeah, I love people talking smart.
Yeah.
where it's like they're talking like they know what they're talking about.
I like intelligent, like horror movies. Like, yes, there is room for like stupid people doing stupid shit and getting like exactly what they deserve. But sometimes I want like smart people trying to figure shit out and researching and like having big conversations in my horror movies. That's what I like too. I like it all.
Yeah.
That's why horror is so great. You can have all that shit. And it's all fun.
You can have your cake and eat it too.
It's all fun and I love it. So I don't know. Again, I'm
just watch
we could be talking for hours about this movie. Go watch the movie. We're going to keep it under an hour and a half here. So, for They Mostly Come Out at Night, this has been Will.
This has been Alex.
We'll talk to you all later.
Bye.
Usually I'm into women dominating me.